कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी 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 यशोदानंदन व्रज जनारंजना 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 यमुना तीर वनचारी 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 राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी Yashodanandanam Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandanam Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandanam Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Achari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Devi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Govinda Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pradikacharya Ashtotarshata Shri Srimad Shila Vaishnava Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Rani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai. Grantaraja Shrimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON BVT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I don't want to inconvenience anybody sitting in the front rows, but if these fans are on, then I'm going to start sneezing after a few minutes. So it's your choice. Please, if you don't mind. If you have a problem with that, you can move back. Usually they ask you to move forward. All right, let's begin Shrimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 83, and today we are looking at texts 27 and 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Swadhamopagate Dhanamajnanadibhisaha Kalaunashtadrishamesha Puranarko Dhunodita Dividunda Bhayo Nedur Jaya Shabda Yata Bhuvi Devascha Kusamasaran Mumuchur Harsha Vihvalaham. Translation, and there's no purport here, but the translation is by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And that verse means, kettle drums resounded in the sky, and on the earth people shouted, Jai, Jai, overjoyed the demigods showered flowers. So there being no purport, we'll go on to the next verse. There's just a couple of comments here. Sridhar Swami just briefly notes, Abhijiti Saravartha Sadhake Muhurte. The Muhurta was Abhijit, and that Muhurta, he says, is auspicious for anything you undertake. Just keep it in mind. Abhijit. Jiva Goswami and Sanatan Goswami both, they say that the Devatas shouted Jai Jai, and the earth, and they released flowers upon the earth. Or another way to look at it is on earth, the drums were resounding and people shouted Jai Jai. So you can take it either way. All right. So text 28. Tadrangam Avisham Aham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Pragrihya Kanaka Ujjvala Ratnamalam Nutne Niviya Parithaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savrida Hasa Vadana Kavari Dhrita Srak Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Neviya Paridhaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Neviya Paridhaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Neviya Paridhaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Niviya Paridhaya Agriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Neviya Paridhaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka. Mataji's anyone? Tadrangama Vishamaham Kalanupurabhyam Padbhyam Prakrishya Kanakojjalaratnamalam Nutne Niviya Paridhaya Cha Kaushikagriye Savridaha Savadana Kavari Dhritasraka Tadrangamaveshamaham kadanupurabhyam. Nusne neviya paridhaya chakaushigagriye. Savridaha savadana kavaridhritasraka. Tad, then, Rangam, the arena, Avisham, entered, Aham, I, Kala, gently sounding, Nupurabhyam, having ankle bells, Padbhyam, with feet, Pragrahya, holding, Kanaka, of gold, Ujjvala, brilliant, Ratna, with jewels, Malam, a necklace, Nutne, new, Niviya, having tied with a belt, Paridhaya, wearing, Cha, and Kaushika, a pair of silk garments, Agriye, excellent, Savrida, shy, Hasa, with a smile, Vadana, my face, Kavari, on the locks of my hair, Dhrita, carrying, Sraka, a wreath of flowers. Translation. Just then I walked onto the ceremonial ground, the ankle bells on my feet gently tinkling. I was wearing new garments of the finest silk, tied with a belt, and I carried a brilliant necklace fashioned of gold and jewels. There was a shy smile on my face and a wreath of flowers in my hair. Please repeat. Just then, I walked onto the ceremonial ground. The ankle bells on my feet gently tinkling. I was wearing new garments of the finest silk, tied with a belt, and I carried a brilliant necklace fashioned of gold and jewels. There was a shy smile on my face and a wreath of flowers in my hair. Purport by the servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Sridhar Swami states that since that Sri Lakshmana was so excited by remembering how she obtained the Supreme Lord, that she forgot her natural shyness and went on to describe her own triumph. Sri Lakshmana ki. Okay. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utaparkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalata Shri Vishakhan Vitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaudangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi tadaivasam payahapitva prishye ustat priyajanaha. My dear Lord Gopal, if you accept my words to be like your cows, then they can provide sweet milk and give pleasure to your pure devotees. Simply full of the ecstasy of obtaining the Lord as her husband, she describes herself in 2 verses, beginning with Tadrangam. Ranga. Ranga means a lot of things, but among them it means a stage, or in this context, sacrificial arena, it's said here. So, tat means then, tada. In case you are wondering, any student of Sanskrit knows, yat, tat. These two things are correlative impersonal pronouns. It usually means that. But here, because Sridhar Swami says so, we know that the word tat in this verse means tada, then. In that context, you can say, loosely translating it. So we don't understand Sanskrit words from dictionaries. We understand Sanskrit words and their meaning from the acharyas, who tell us what the definitions of the words are. If we have faith in the bona fide spiritual master, anything he says we will embrace. And this principle was so much permeating the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in the 1970s, that just because Srila Prabhupada said devotee, therefore everyone in the entire society pronounces that word devotee. Second syllable stressed. Because ordinarily the proper pronunciation according to the grammar should be devotee. But such was the respect that Srila Prabhupada commanded, that everybody just another example is deity. The actual pronunciation is deity, but Srila Prabhupada said deity, therefore we say deity. This is faith. This is faith. Guru mukha padma bhakko chite te kori aikya. Aruna kori homani asha. And you don't care for what anybody else says. This is faith. And why is that important? Because yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau. Tasyaitika tatha hirtaha prakashante mahatmanaha. Those who have equal faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, they realize automatically all the imports of the Vedic literatures. There are people who, they give great importance to the spiritual master, but they neglect Krishna. It becomes like a personality cult, and that's universally offensive. Everyone finds it objectionable. But it goes on. And likewise, there are people who respect the deity very, very carefully, but they don't know how to respect the devotees. This is the hallmark of Kanishta Adhikar, or the neophyte stage of Adhikar for spiritual life. So we have to avoid both of them. I mean to say we have to avoid both anarthas, not both Guru and Krishna. We have to give equal respect. Okay, so this is one thing from Sridhar Swami's commentary, and then she entered with the soft sound of anklets tinkling on both feet. That necklace, mala, had jewels reflected on the bright gold. It was made and worn with a tied thread, niviya. So it seems as if Srila Prabhupada is disagreeing with Sridhar Swami in his interpretation, because he's taking the word niviya to be a belt. I'm sorry, this is not Srila Prabhupada, this is the BBT editors. But, yeah, I was wearing new garments of the finest silk tied with a belt. And in the word-for-word synonyms, niviya means, translated here, having tied with a belt. Anyway, I have no comment on that, but it's a fact that sometimes these terms can be vague, and they are definitely interpreted differently by various acharyas. Just something to note here. So, otherwise, as we've seen, like they have this bazubanda, right? A little ornamental thing goes on the arm and you tie it with a string. If you've ever seen Vrindavan mein Ras Leela hoti hai na, so if you've ever seen this Ras Leela Anukaran, then you know that actors are all very decked out with so many wonderful things, including these kinds of jewelry. Necklaces that you tie in the back. This is old-fashioned style, but among traditional people it still goes on. So this is what's described here. And Kaushika Griye means the finest silk clothing. There was a shy smile on her face, and her hair was bound with strings of flowers, just like still goes on. Especially if you're from South India, you know this very well, because the entire state of Tamil Nadu smells like jasmine flowers, because 50% of the population is walking around with flowers in their hair in the back. So you can even buy them like that, whole strings of them. Very convenient. All right. Sanatan Goswami, he says, I held with great respect, pragrihya. So there's this prefix, he says, pra means, it implies some respect. Grihya, we know, grihya. What does grihya mean? Huh? To grab something. Therefore, a planet who grabs you is called a graha. And the mercy, when Krishna accepts you, that's called anugraha. You become his follower. And the grihastha ashram, you're entering the griha. You have accepted that ashram. And hopefully you also accepted all the responsibilities that go along with it. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult time. All right, so I held with great respect, pragrihya, a garland in my hands. Not exactly a garland, we've heard already, it's a mala. Mala can mean a necklace or a garland, either one. And I wore new silk cloth for the wedding. She smiled shyly in joy, having attained her desire, or because of the special love that she had for the Lord that was awakened within her heart. Therefore, the flowers in her hair also increased her beauty. Okay, so why is she smiling shyly? According to what we've just heard from Sanatan Goswami. She shyly smiles because she's got what she wanted. I know one lady in South India, Tiruchendur to be exact. She was very deliberately worshipping Lord Murugan, because that's what Tamils do. He's Tamil God. So her purpose was to get a particular boy as her husband. And as the Tamils do, she was walking on fire and doing all these austerities and penances to fulfill that desire, and she got it. Likewise, but in the purest form, this is what we're seeing today with Sri Lakshmana, one of the Lord's many queens. We've already heard up until this point. So this is Lakshmana's turn to talk. They're all explaining with Draupadi how they got Krishna as their husband. Everybody has their prem ki kahani, no? And everybody wants to know, when you get married, what's your story? How did it happen? These are the things that attract the conditioned soul's mind, and therefore we have these things in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, just to pull our minds out of this domineering mode that we have in this material world to try and exploit Krishna's energy and even his living entities, and to put our minds back at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and his pure devotees, to give us a hint of what the real goal in life is. Okay, so these are the two things. Either she was happy because she got what she wanted, or she was just blissed out because of her particular mode of rasa that she alone has for the Lord. Every single one of you, I mean to say every single one of us, we have a unique relationship with the Lord, and that unique relationship gives rise to a unique taste that no one else can have, including Krishna. That's why Krishna is so fascinated by his devotees. That's why he came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to try to understand this thing. Maybe if I take the complexion and try to adopt the sentiments of Srimati Radharani, then maybe I can understand this thing. This is Krishna's fascination. Our fascination is with the realm of Mahamaya and all the personalities within it and all the things within it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's fascination is with the Hladni Shakti, Srimati Radharani ki. That's why she's called Jayashri, because she alone can conquer him. All these queens in Dwarka, Srila Rupa Goswami tells us in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, they were unable to sway the Lord's mind. Although he acted like a henpecked husband, he acted like that, but in fact he wasn't. He was so self-controlled that they could not break his determination to do whatever it was that he wanted to do. So he says he uses this as the instance of evidence to support the assertion that one of Krishna's transcendental qualities is self-control. All right, so anyway, she has this special love for the Lord, and that arose, according to Sanatana Goswami. Srinath Chakravarti and Jiva Goswami, they both say, Tadrangam avishamaham iti harshot karshena garvam paramaud sukhya aratmanam vishanashti kalanupurabhyam ityadi. Out of utter excitement or pride, along with the greatest happiness, she talks about herself now, specifying herself by such phrases as Kalanupurabhyam, both anklets tinkling, or holding the garland in my hand, or having the flowers in my hair, etc., or shyly smiling. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds, remembering her joy on Queen Lakshmana describes her choosing Krishna at that time, in 2 verses. Remember, there are many different ways to get married, right? How many ways can you get married? According to Shastra. There's at least 8. There's other ways also, but they're not really considered very seriously. You can have 4 of them are admirable. That's if your father gives you in charity to a worthy groom, or if a bride selects you in her swayamvara, or so, like this, according to Shastra. This is all described in Manusmriti and throughout Prabhupada's books. 4 of them are not so much encouraged, right? Gandharva marriage, when 2 people we say, what do they say? Fall in love. That's why we say you fell in love. It's a fall down, according to the strict, Smriti principles. So, but it is there. It goes on. And then there's others, the Rakshasas, how they do it, and, demons, how they do, and all these things are described. So every mode of sexual attraction, romantic attraction in this world, it is all described in the Shastra. There's nothing new, my friends. Everything that you are dealing with in life, it's in the Shastra, but you open them and hear from a pure devotee. That's the question. Guru Mukha Padma Vakuchite Te Koryaikya Arona Kori Homani Asha. Think about it. Why else did Prabhupada ask us to sing it every day? So, she was so joyous just by remembering this event that she's speaking these 2 verses, shyness aside. And she said, I carried a brilliant necklace fashioned out of gold and jewels. A belt was tied around my upper and lower garments. This is his interpretation, which were of excellent silk. And that's all he says. Now, Vallabhacharya also chimes in here. He adds his comments. Through this verse, Lakshmana is describing herself. Some degree of shyness has gone away. Otherwise, we don't like to talk about ourselves so much. In this verse, these 2 verses, she would explain her actions. She's given 5 descriptions about herself as her qualities. What are they? Those of you who can see the verse, you can look and see. The flowers, the shy smile, the garland in her hand, the nupur on her feet. What else? The silk. So at least these 5. I entered into the arena where the festival of my marriage was being celebrated. And then she describes her form and nature. I was wearing anklets, which made soft, sweet sounds. And with this, she indicates the ornaments worn by me were not silent. They were making sweet sounds. That is their ecstasy. When we're Krishna conscious, we make sweet sounds. When we're not Krishna conscious, we make offensive sounds, objectionable, unappealing sounds. Something to consider. All right. So my feet were beautified with such ornaments. Through this, everyone could identify me as the bride. In other words, this is the pride that Jiva Goswami spoke of. He's accepted me according to my desire. She's so happy about this. Showing the fully adorned form, she says that I had taken a golden garland, fully studded with precious stones, in my hand, and this garland was to be put on the neck of our Lord. Shri Dwarkadhisha ki jai, Shri Lakshmana ki jai. Transcendental love. Showing the fully adorned form, she says, I'd taken a golden... she's now referring to her beautifully dressed form by describing that she wore a silken dress, and another silken dress was draped by her covering the first dress, because sometimes we wear 2 pieces, right? So it seems that she was doing that. With a view to express her own rasa, she says, my face was seen with a soft, bashful smile, exhibiting my inner mood. Through her soft smile, she created ripples of infatuation outside. Everyone looked at her, and those who were not pure in heart, they became attracted. And those who were pure in heart, they became so happy to see her joy. And Lord Krishna, even himself, became also attracted. So, like this, fully dressed up, I came into the assembly hall. All right. Of the many things that are mentioned in this verse, one word out of curiosity, while studying this verse, I decided, let me look up and see what AI has to say about shyness. Vrida. Not very valued virtue in this world anymore, is it? Shyness. Especially in women, because we're so permeated by Marxist ideology and psychology that we think, that's just a setup for being exploited. And in many cases, it certainly is. Anyway, so I saw what does it have to say. Most saliently, that is to say, the most notable thing that struck me about what AI said is that there's no mention at all about the fact that every mainstream religion and traditional culture in the entire world and shyness in great esteem. There's not a mention of that. Not even a word about it. Here's what it said, and I'm quoting, please pardon me. Shyness in women is a common personality trait characterized by feelings of discomfort and anxiety in social situations, often stemming from a fear of negative judgment or rejection. It is not inherently a feminine trait, and shy women can be strong and capable despite their tendency to be reserved. Shyness can manifest in various ways, including avoidance of social interaction, heightened self-consciousness, and difficulty initiated conversations. It goes on with more to say, in terms of understanding shyness, we look at the fear of negative evaluation, we look at social anxiety, cognitive and behavioral components like negative self-preoccupation or low self-esteem, hint, hint. And it can be categorized as public or private. And it's not always submissive, you've got to put that in there. Then there's causes of shyness: self-consciousness, negative self-preoccupation, unrealistic social comparisons. Sometimes we compare ourselves to others who are far beyond us. Past experience, fear of rejection, that's another one. How shyness manifests, this is what we call sattvic vichar in Sanskrit, according to Rupa Goswami's rasa theory. And dealing with shyness, this is most notable here. How to deal with shyness. Challenge negative thoughts. Identify and challenge negative thoughts and beliefs about social situations. Very, very subtly poking a finger at authorities such as Manu and others who actually highly value shyness. And here's another one. Seek support. Consider seeking guidance from a therapist or counselor if shyness is significantly impacting your life. It doesn't come out and say directly that it's causing problems in your life. It just says significantly impacting your life. Very subtle. The kind of shyness that Queen Lakshmana is exhibiting here is endorsed by virtually all of those who value social religious traditions. But the closest this discussion, this AI discussion, ever comes to addressing that fact is implicitly interpreting it as something negative, thus suggesting that one should challenge it. That word was used. This alone illustrates the depth of cultural Marxism, yes, in our society. It now permeates everywhere, even in India, maybe especially in India. And that's not by chance. If you don't believe me, you can go and Google Frankfurt School. See what you come up with. But naturally, AI tries very hard to objectively, or to be fair in its description here. But obviously it considers feminine shyness as a problem instead of a virtue, doesn't it? Certainly sounds that way, to me at least. Less discriminating people who hear this AI description will probably neither retain any shyness that they have, nor actually aspire for the kind of shyness that Srila Prabhupada consistently praises and encourages throughout his books. In legion references, such as the following, and I'm going to quote. Well, in the 5th canto we have heard the word Vrida was used there, and the wife of Priyavrata. Who was the wife of Priyavrata Maharaj? Anybody remember? Barhishmati. She is described as having this shyness, Vrida. Srila Prabhupada himself says in chapter 9 of the 1st canto, text 27, quote, as far as the women class are concerned, they are accepted as the power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than men. Mighty Julius Caesar was controlled by a Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is important for women. Once this control valve is loosened, women can create havoc in society by adultery. Adultery means production of unwanted children known as Varna Sankara, who disturb the world. These Varna Sankara, they are now occupying all the positions of leadership in the major superpowers today. I won't mention names, but you know who they are. In the 10th chapter of the 1st canto, text 15, in his purport, Srila Prabhupada is even more explicit. He says, these are all dealing with Kunti Devi's teachings, in case you haven't noticed. Shyness is a particular extra-natural beauty of the fair sex, and it commands respect from the opposite sex. This custom was observed during the days of the Mahabharata, more than 5,000 years ago. It is only the less intelligent persons not well versed in the history of the world who say that the observance of separation of male and female is an introduction of the Mohammedan period in India. This incident from Mahabharata period proves definitely that the ladies of the palace observe strict parda, restricted association with men. And instead of coming down in the open air where Lord Krishna and others were assembled, the ladies of the palace went on top of the palace and from there paid their respects to Lord Krishna by showers of flowers. It is definitely stated here that the ladies were smiling there on top of the palace, checked by shyness. This shyness is a gift of nature to the fair sex, and it enhances their beauty and prestige, even if they are of a less important family or even if they are less attractive. We have practical experience of this fact. A sweeper woman commanded the respect of many respectable gentlemen simply by manifesting a lady's shyness. Half-naked ladies in the street do not command any respect, but a shy sweeper's wife commands respect from all. Human civilization, as conceived of by the sages of India, is to help one free himself from the clutches of illusion. The material beauty of a woman is an illusion because actually the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, etc. But because there is the association of the living spark with matter, it appears to be beautiful. No one is attracted by an earthen doll, even if it is most perfectly prepared to attract the attention of others. The dead body has no beauty because no one will accept the dead body, even of a so-called beautiful woman. Therefore, the conclusion is that the spirit spark is beautiful. And because of the soul's beauty, one is attracted by the beauty of the outward body. The Vedic wisdom, therefore, forbids us to be attracted by false beauty. But because we are now in the darkness of ignorance, Vedic civilization allows very restricted mixing of women and men. They say that the woman is considered to be the fire and man is considered to be the butter. The butter must melt in association with fire, and therefore they may be brought together only when it is necessary. And shyness is a check to the unrestricted mixing. It is nature's gift, and it must be utilized. This is again from the First Canto, Chapter 10, Text 16. Srila Prabhupada said about this, women are good. Men are good, although it often doesn't look that way. Women are good, men are good. But women plus men, not good. This is the principle. Because they bring out each other's worst qualities. And it cements the attraction that we have as conditioned souls to exploiting the Lord and His creation and even His parts and parcels. And everybody does it. It's not only what Karl Marx tells us that men are exploiting women. That theory is that, privileged classes naturally must exploit the less privileged, but it's not so. Even the less privileged persons are also trying to exploit. That is a fact. We're all conditioned souls. All right, so anyway, there's much more that we can say here about this. I mean, I can just give you, as I said, these quotes about shyness, and particularly feminine shyness. They're legion throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, but the time is less. So I'm going to stop here. But if anybody has any questions or any comments, we can try to discuss. Here's the thing to note. Vrida Hasa. Her Vrida itself is an adjective describing her smile. That means she's happy. It's not that shyness is necessarily only a symptom of low self-esteem. It's not so. But it is a natural characteristic, lakshana, of Krishna consciousness. Even men, before the spiritual master, they are also like this. So, Vrida Hasa, very happy. And so happy she was on this occasion, just remembering this glorious wedding that she had with the Lord. All right, anybody have any questions or comments? I'm not seeing any hands, so. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, as you said, man plus women is not good. Can you highlight more on that, why it's not good?
Prabhupada mentioned it. that men are considered to be like butter, women are considered to be like fire. Who's going to melt? So, the sexes have to be, the association has to be restricted. How restricted? You would be amazed. Prabhupada said, I'm 90% lenient. But this is the governing principle behind the Vedic Shastra that restrict the free intermingling of male and female. The principle is that it will check self-realization, because men, in case you haven't noticed, it's very hard for them to control themselves in the association of women. Therefore, they have to avoid. And women have the tendency to eat up the entire universe, according to Chanakya Pandit, because they desire things 9 times more than men. They don't desire the same things that men desire. They desire other things, but they desire them 9 times more. For that reason, it has to be there, as the Prabhupada says, a control valve to prevent havoc. Because the easy way to take advantage of a man, they all know it. In case you don't know it, you just revealed it. But this is why the Shastra says, no, 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 no. So many no's. You have to be restricted for everyone's welfare. And Prabhupada has already described this in his purport to I think it was chapter 9, Kunti Stava, text 27. I believe it's there. He says that the way that the sages have envisioned society is such that everybody can make advancement. And that's really not possible if sense gratification is encouraged instead of restricted. And the primary mode of sense gratification, the dominant mode of sense gratification, is this attraction between male and female. This is First Canto, chapter 10, text 16. You can look it up. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes, please. Jorse. Agar microphone nahi.
Thank you for the wonderful class. My question is that Srila Prabhupada would also see that in spiritual life,
yes,
men and women are equal, and he would encourage women to do good distribution.
Yes.
It was unheard of women being
that's
on
right.
stage.
Yeah.
So, do you think that as the time, place, and circumstances, he gave women more opportunities as compared to traditional Vedic culture?
As per the time, place, and circumstance. Yes, of course. That's what an acharya does. And Prabhupada said about this, because some of his American disciples, they're trained from birth to be not shy, to be aggressive. But, when they read these things, at least in the 1970s when they read these things, it kind of spurred their intelligence that, wait a minute, we're going out on book distribution, we're very aggressively approaching strange men in public, and, at the same time it's stated that we should be very shy and modest and reserved. And so they asked Prabhupada about this. And Prabhupada's answer was that you should be like a lion on the chase and like a lamb at home. So they said, because, they were experiencing that. We're so aggressive on Sankirtan, when we come back into the temple, it's kind of hard to switch off that mode and get into another psychology. Prabhupada said like this. This is self-control. Just as a man has his self-control, a woman has her self-control. And this is it. So, hopefully that's helpful. All right, anything else? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Regarding this shyness, Prabhupada says that shyness is real beauty of woman. So
especially, yeah.
Yeah. So if women come out from home to street for book distribution, that shyness will not be there. Then mingling with men on road,
Yes.
So they have to be restricted. Yes, it's good for book distribution, but it would be nice if they distribute at temple, so they will be protected.
Yes, Zurur. That's why, according to her question, context, time, place, circumstances, everything. I mean, it's hard to make, blanket rules that govern everything. Everything is contextual.
Because according to Varnashram system, Brahman openly they never mingle with women. Even Kshatriya also, even Vaishya also. But Shudra class, this mingling is open. But in Varnashram society, no one can understand who is Brahman, who is Shudra, who is Vaishya. So in our ISKCON society, Srila Prabhupada has created this ISKCON for establish this Varnashram system. But how it can become fulfilled? This is my question.
This is a subject matter of multiple PhD dissertations, which have not yet been written. It's going to take some time, I think, but at least we should be cognizant and sympathetic to the instructions that are standing still after 50 years. That much we can do now, and we can begin to talk about it. We can do some serious research about it to edify ourselves, if no one else. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, it's said by Lao Tzu. So, this is the thing. And, be careful of people who are discouraging orders of the spiritual master also, because there are plenty of them. And we don't really have time to get into it because it's already over time, but it's a big topic. Okay, thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.